We have a match brought to you by our May Aspire Esports tournament. To bring you the finals action is myself. I am Don. Today, joined by the wonderful Siimba. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you? I'm super excited.
Yeah, me too. I love competitive Hearthstone.
Oh, I agree. Because ladder brings me pain. Competitive Hearthstone makes me excited. And seeing all of these lists, especially nice and refined, down for the competitive level. And it'll be cool to see not professionals play these decks and how they turn out.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one thing that I've really wanted to kind of hit home with this Aspire Esports Center, right? Is that there are so many people who play Hearthstone and who want to be kind of in that competitive scene, but they can't just immediately go jump into a master's tour. Like that's not really how it works. So, being able to have opportunities to play tournaments and try those things out, and they may not be players that typical, people who watch the big tournaments might recognize. But that's what's so great about this. And I will say, after the finals match, we have two players for our finals here. So we have we're going to say Racken and Odin. And Racken actually told me afterwards that this was their first tournament. This is the
First
first
tournament
tournament.
ever.
Yes.
That's one made the finals.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is amazing. And it makes me happy too, because that is exactly what this is about, getting experience to people.
Yeah, at this point, getting to the finals is a feat in and of itself, right? A win would be phenomenal.
Let's talk about what the actual format is for this tournament that we had. So it is a standard conquest tournament, and it was best of 5. So these players had to bring 4 decks, ban one for their opponent, and then get a win with each of the other 3 that weren't banned. There was a little bit of a prize pool, again, just to kind of get people in, and, people that did do well get something. So first place going to get $15 and second place going to get $5. Yeah, so, it's something. But they made it this far, so both of the players that we are about to see have made it to that finals and will be taking some money home after this tournament. But okay, let's talk about the decks. You were looking through these, Siimba. What do you see?
I see somebody still playing Druid after the nerfs. And that makes my heart both heavy and happy. Druid
Yes.
terrorized me for an entire month and a half. And then it kind of got almost nerfed off the ladder entirely, at least for me, almost at any rank. And so to see it still being played is really exciting. And then I also noticed the Hunter Paladin Mage, not necessarily mirror, but they both brought those 3 decks, which has to speak to me, to the strength of those, even as someone who hasn't been playing those on ladder. To see both of them bringing Hunter Paladin and Mage speaks volumes to how well those decks are doing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really interesting that, like I said, 3 of the 4 decks were the same, or at least the same class, right? We have Odin's decks, which is the player that brought Druid that you were saying. So these decks are pretty aggressive. I mean, they look mana-wise like they top out late game, but at the same time, it's like none of that above maybe 8 mana really is going to get played in these games.
Oh, yeah. And for the Druid, he's running Druid of the Reefs, Ibis, Amalgams, which is very interesting now that has been added specifically, I believe, for the Kazaku-san nerf. So that's super helpful. So it's not even like we're struggling for dragons at this point.
Right.
Onyxia costs 10, but we're going to have so much mana that won't even matter. It's almost as if Paladin is the slowest deck on the list.
The list here that Odin brought for Paladin is kind of more of that control-y type holy spells package with the pyromancers. There's a shimmering sunfish, a starfish, 1 viper, so a couple kind of tech cards in there. If we look over on the other side, Raken's decks, and yeah, these decks are pretty fast. They're even lower curve, I think, than Odin's decks that we were just talking about. But Naga, Ping Mage, you have Mech Paladin, the Hunter, Quest Hunter deck, and then, of course, everyone's favorite, super fast Demon Hunter deck.
Yeah, Quest Hunter actually can almost entirely avoid being on board until you've completed the quest. And it can kill you in like turn 7 without
Yeah.
playing a single darn minion. And so that's amazing. It's really cool to see two different versions of Paladin. I'm not sure which one is better. The mech version though, it just has so much reload. So you clear a board, but you've already used your gorilla bots and your amalgams, and you just throw it right back down. So it's not going to be enough. But I'm sure he's running, yeah, Cariel. So that'll help a little bit as well. Demon Hunter might be the strongest deck that was brought here, in my personal opinion, thanks to Drekthar.
Yeah, Drekthar is just so strong right now. Like, it has so many powerful swings and so much potential. Let's talk real quick as well about the bans. Odin has banned the Demon Hunter on Raken's side. So, not really a surprise
Yeah, no
banning Demon
surprise there.
Hunter. uh, but on the other side, Raken has banned Odin's Paladin. And that's very interesting because I think that kind of leads to maybe a little bit about what you were talking about with maybe that just board removal and Cariel, like the weapon for Cariel can prevent so much damage.
Especially since Hunter is the only deck I believe that Racken is running the Rustrot Vipers in. So making sure that he doesn't run into a bad matchup there with the Paladin is very, very important. And then there's always the chance that your Druid runs too slow, and that would be another win. So at that point, you only have to beat 2 decks, theoretically, of course.
Played a ton of Mech Paladin specifically,
Okay.
but Mech Paladin actually I feel like has done pretty well into the other paladins. These lineups can do pretty well versus paladin, but there wasn't Demon Hunter brought on the other side, so there's no Demon Hunter to ban out. Looking at it, it's like, okay, Hunter, Mage, or the Druid, Racken bringing such a like low curve aggressive lineup, that's just going to stomp all over Druid. It seems maybe a little bit like, why would you ban the Paladin? But at the same time, like looking at the lineup overall and what Odin has brought, it's like, yeah, let's just get rid of that Paladin and probably aim to just smork down those other decks, especially the Druid. And we are going to be getting into the first game here in just one moment as this gets set up. But any predictions?
Looking at the deck list and the bans, I think Racken's going to probably take it 3-2. That is what I think, and it's because of the Druid. I don't think Druid is going to perform against the deck list as well as he should. Honestly, I would play Druid first to try to get that out of the way. Try to get that one out of the way, because if you leave Druid to last, I don't know. I could honestly see Druid getting swept.
Here we are going to be getting into this first game. It looks like it is going to be Quest Hunter for Odin here on the bottom versus Racken with that Mech Paladin.
The Mech Paladin hand is looking very strong to start with. Oh, is that a full keep from Odin, or was that after the mulligan?
I believe the mulligan was missed here.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. But, oh my gosh, yeah, looking at this hand for the Mech Paladin as well, so strong. This Jewel Kit, oh my gosh, I love Jewel Kit. You were talking about how in the Quest Hunter, that's kind of where the only, well, maybe not for Odin, but the inclusion of Vipers in Quest Hunter, and I really think with my experience on these decks, having the removal for that Jewel Kit slows down the Mech Paladin so much because that Jewel Kit buffs everything in hand. It's not just like a buff on one minion. It's a +1/+1 every time a Divine Shield is lost to everything in hand. And that value and that amount of stats on minions can get kind of crazy for the Quest Hunter to deal with. But there is some at least good damage stuff already in hand for Odin.
I'm surprised at the coin being used so early there, but I think I'm more surprised at the fact that we saw oh my goodness, Viper off the top.
Yeah, wow. Oh,
Oh,
still
but
kinda,
instead he procs.
yeah, I mean, it does use the Dragonbane shot, which, getting more value out of that Dragonbane shot, well, they can. to at least have another one, progress the quest. It already looked turn 3, and this hero power is already 0. I mean, that is a pretty solid start, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see the Viper come down.
What amazing choices right there. Oh my goodness. And of course, we have the click clocker. I think you have to Viper here.
Also, this ordering from Racken was kind of interesting. I'm not sure if they played the click clocker to try to put the buff that the click clocker puts on a specific mech, but if the click clocker had come out first, and if it did hit this sunk the savior, then that would be an additional 1/1 on whatever minion was dredged up. And I think if it was that sunken mooncatcher, that's essentially +2/+2 because it makes a copy.
And that is a lot of stats to try to deal with only 2 cards in hand.
Yeah.
Turn 2 might have been the deciding play of this match on both sides. I guess it would have been turn 3, no Viper. But also the Barb Nets was used on just face, wasn't it?
Was it barb nets? I think it was wound prey.
Double Dragonbane shot. We have Tavish
Wow.
on curve.
That is incredibly fast quest completion.
And the best part of it is that they're still at 30 health.
Yeah. Except for now, I think this is where Odin might be in some trouble here as the hunter because essentially spending the whole turn to just get the 7/7 down, which is now easily contested by a 7 attack divine shield.
Everything in hand is so strong thanks to that jewel kit.
Yeah.
Oh, an extra Leviathan? Thank you very much. Probably pick the Annoyotron though. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting in this matchup because like you said early when we were talking about deck lists, right? Like Quest Hunter doesn't even necessarily need to have something on board. Like it just sends its hero power to face or wherever it needs to over the top of taunts. So going for the Annoyotron is kind of interesting in this matchup, but it does get something else on the board right now.
I do like the trade there, setting up 2-turn lethal because you save your 7/5. 7/7 cannot trade anything off as you inevitably get through the Annoyotron. And obviously you can't see his hand, but it's looking pretty grim, especially since your Rust Rot Viper is now best just used for trading.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is going to be a removal turn, it seems like, for Odin now, just having to take care of some of the stuff off of the board. And like you said, all those stats just it makes it so much harder to deal with, even with a free repeating and now buffed up hero power. So many things.
Trick shot on 7/5, hero power, Barb Nets ×2 leaves with a 3/3 and a 1/2.
Yeah, I mean it did remove a lot off of the board. It's just now at this point, like you said, the Viper is just gonna have to be used as a tradable effect. And now Odin is kind of in this like really bad spot of just not really having anything to do. I mean, spent that entire turn sending so many things to minions. How does Odin come back and win this now?
Yeah, that turn was a problem to be honest. 'Cause I didn't spend enough time counting damage. I don't think that Odin could have sent enough face there to have avoided dying.
No. And now look at this. Racken has just like rebuilt the board.
Oh yeah, trade first, please.
Yep, there it
Perfect.
is.
Ooh, treasure guard.
Oh, no, but having to spend the 1 mana on the tradable means that the treasure card and the spell can't both be played this turn.
And now we're in the very, very unfortunate position where we traded our Viper one turn before carry out.
Yeah. Yeah, this really just, this felt a little bit like a case of having that Viper but not using it. Who even needs Carriel when you just have Mr. Smite?
That was a very well played game from both sides. It might have seemed one sided, but I don't think that it was. I think there was just very good draws from the Paladin, and the using 2 spells on turn 2 in order to complete the quest removed a lot of potential minion reduction from Odin's side.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if it would have gone any differently even using the Viper just because there still was so much power there, but, yeah, it definitely did seem like, Racken with the Paladin had, like, every possible answer and just a really good start, right? Starting off with the Jewel Kit, starting off with cheap minions, getting the really good sequencing of the Mooncatcher into Savior, getting the Sunken Mooncatcher all buffed up, like, it just worked out really, really well there.
It was basically a perfect curve. The only way you could, affect that is by taking off the jewel kit. But we did save the Viper. Like you said, though, I'm not even sure that would have saved the game.
We actually are going to jump back into that first game for a bit of a replay discussion here because there was a little bit that we wanted to dig into even deeper. So let's take a look again at this. It is the Hunter versus the Paladin that we just saw. Of course, turn one, the quest gets played. This is reasonable.
Reasonable, yeah. And then Prismatic Jewel Kit on one also, seeing as that's probably the best card in the deck.
Yeah.
We're back here for the record because I was thinking about this game and I was very not concerned, but I was wondering if changing turn 2 or a turn 3 play might have changed the outcome of the game. Because this one was kind of a landslide.
Yeah. And we talked about also here, like, the option for, Racken to coin into that click clocker on turn 1, and I love that, except for I think the reason it didn't happen there is because of the draw into exactly the Mooncatcher, and coining Mooncatcher on turn 2 is great. And here, yes, there was a barbed nets played. I completely missed that. You pointed it out
Yeah,
when we
I thought
were
I saw
going
the
through.
barb nuts. That it was the animation
Yeah,
that got me. I was like, I think if I was gonna play 2 spells there, I would have played the Wound Prey. That way I could attack something with a Divine Shield to
yeah.
potentially clear.
Yeah, and then, here's this play I think both of us were talking about. I really think this turn 3 should have been this top decked Viper.
I rewatching it, 100% agree. I can understand the thought of, "Hey, I got a Rust Viper that will literally get eaten up by this Mooncatcher."
Yeah,
But the strength of the Jewel Kit is, I believe, just so much more important. And there's also the chance that with the Mooncatcher gone, with the Jewel Kit gone, the Mooncatcher goes face. It's a very small chance, but there's a chance that the
sure.
Viper doesn't get traded off, and then you can do interesting things with your 1 cost spells and your Dragonbane shots, and potentially be able to sort of control the board a little bit. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm still playing scenarios in my head, but that's where I was at. I was very, very uncomfortable with the not playing of that Viper.
Oh, yeah, and, I was sharing a little bit with you, but my experience playing that Mech Paladin as well, I had a day where, like, nobody as Quest Hunter removed that weapon, and I basically had, like, 100% win rate.
Oh,
But
that's huge.
yeah, and then but 2 days later, I don't know, like, the quest hunters all got together or something, and they talked, and they were like, "Nah, we need to play this Viper." And, then the matchup, like, all of a sudden actually was a lot closer to a 50-50. I still was a little bit above as the Mech Paladin, but just that one play of removing that potential
Especially, I mean, even just there in that game, there was buffs on all the minions in hand,
Mhm.
including the Seafloor Savior, which then gave buffs to our Sunken Mooncatcher, which
Yep.
got drawn into, I believe, 2/7/5s. Like the amount of power output there
Yeah.
was just off the charts. And there was not even a turn after that where you were able to play the Viper. That's what it kind of got stuck in hand after that because of the needing to remove all the things on board. And if you have to use 3 mana on a Viper, you can't remove all this stuff on board, so you just die anyways. And so turn 3 without the coin was the only turn to play that Viper. And yeah, I think it's awesome that we caught that too, because that's what you do. You play the matchup, you learn the matchup, you learn new things about the game, and yeah, no shade or shame in the play. I just
Yeah.
think that being able to watch it afterwards, we were able to analyze that a little bit better, and you'll play better for it later on.
1-0, and we're gonna get into our second game here.
Another very, very good start from Racken over there, though. All one cost
Yeah.
cards.
Yeah, and now we're seeing like the flip, right? Racken just faced against the quest hunter, but now Racken is on the quest hunter, excuse me, now playing as the quest hunter, gonna be facing into this Naga ping mage.
Which
Yeah,
is
really
honestly,
wildfire.
ooh,
Yeah.
a bad matchup because wildfires or not, there's not going to be minions to ping. Sure, you can ping face. There's nothing to get rid of there.
Yeah, I mean, unless there is something like well, we see one minion coming into hand, but Drekthar does potentially bring out some minions. But I mean, even applying some pressure to the hunter could do a lot. Oh my gosh. This is really interesting too. Odin going for these early minions, even coined one out to set up for this amalgam setup turn.
Choosing Zola there, that is very interesting. I'm not sure what you're going to want to bring back to hand, but it's simply better for value.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from this point now, it's a little bit unfortunate that both of the minions got killed from Odin's perspective because it could have just been the pick to fill in the curve
Oh,
here.
oh no. I simply would not have attacked there. I think I'm not sure it's worth having to chip down all the armor to put the attack in. Are there other secrets that they should have been worried of?
Yeah, I think the big thought there, for me at least, would be if it were counterspell. So maybe that could be an argument for attacking first and seeing if it, if anything happened. Ugh, yeah, counterspell would be the big one, I think. Like, especially as quest hunter, if one of your spells, especially if it's going to take up like all your mana, like that's your whole turn is that one spell, that slows you down so much. But it obviously it wasn't, and I mean, Reckon now is just like doing all the things. I mean, even utilizing their own 1/1 that was just created to push so much damage because of this extra spell damage. And the spell damage is not even like it's not even in auto include anymore. Like I think we saw it more in Quest Hunter, but it's not very popular now.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think I probably would have tested it with the wound prey instead of the attack, but I definitely see the fear of counterspell there. Using that
Mhm.
1/1 to push damage face though was super good. Not only did we get the damage to face, but it took away a ping.
Yeah. Which I guess also up there's the Drekthar.
Rexar off the top.
Wow. There's one of those vipers. This is so much on board. I guess now a first double first flame and an higher damage hero power can deal with some of this. Oh, there's the flurry too. Can at least slow down minion pressure here, but we've talked about it already a couple of times. Like Quest Hunter is not known for its minion pressure.
And just looking at that hand from our side, this could get pretty nasty this next turn. Trade the Viper. I love that as the first play. Oh my.
Oh,
We're looking at 8,
wow.
10, 11. It's almost lethal.
Yeah, this is how much damage is this here?
Well, 2 from the hero power should go first, and then you'd play. Is that barbed?
Yeah, with
Um,
the Naga coming out as well.
you have the extra 1. Play the explosive.
Oh, down to 7 already. Yeah, and this is where this is that turn 7, but now I guess, there is the 1 copy of Explosive in the list, and this is an open decklist tournament, so Odin, would know what the secret is here. That does count towards the quest completion.
So now we have Tavish in hand. Are we going to see Magister Dawngrass dropped here? No, the answer very quickly was no.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I could see maybe even using the flurry and then dawn grasp, or maybe the other way around, because one flurry had already been used, right? So playing the dawn grasp, see if that flurry comes out. If it doesn't, then you can follow up with the free one. But the downside, I think, is that it still somewhat puts Odin in the same position of just being really far behind on board and not being able to work towards their own game completion.
Jeez.
But it might have been enough to stall.
Oh
And then
my goodness.
yeah, and then the top deck there of the weapon, I don't even think it was necessary though, was it?
I'm not sure if it was or not, but that was a crazy top deck. You can't really play around that. I think that the play to play both of those and buff them a little bit and then use the other flurry was actually probably the best play that they probably could have made there. Double Slither Spear, both have 2 attack.
Yeah,
And the next turn, if they survive, there was probably at least 3 or 4 spells that could have been played out of hand to make
right.
a couple 5/2s.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. That's kind of one of those plays where it's like do you play the Dawn Grasp and just try to survive? Or do you make a play like that and hope it's enough to get your own win? Because that really felt like a play of playing either to win or playing not to lose. And like, that kind of back and forth. We've seen it a lot um in other tournaments and stuff, but yeah, that was a tough spot regardless.
I think if you're going to attack into the explosive trap, you do play the Dawn Grasp. I think if you're going to hold that attack back, then the other play is better.
Yeah. Well, going into game number 3, Rakin already up 2-0 now because of this. Odin has definitely been trying, but it definitely feels like Rakin has just been able to put out some really strong early game. And now Odin switching back over to Quest Hunter. Tried it the first game against the Mech Paladin, didn't do as well. Switched off of it, and now switching back over to it with Rakin on their last deck now with
Yeah.
with the mage.
Based on how the match has gone, it's looking like a 3-0. Based on how last game went, it's looking like Odin has a phenomenal chance to try to pull something out here.
Yeah, that turn 1 wildfire. A little bit different kind of starts though. Like you said, Odin last game with that mage started out with coining some minions and really trying to get that minion pressure going, and saved the wildfire for a little bit, but Rakin just playing it out on that turn 1. Not maybe the greatest like on board follow up here, but 2 damage with that hero power, working towards the deck's goal.
That was a very interesting play, seeing as I personally used that legendary most often to try and either push for 2-turn lethal or lethal that turn. Dropping it on turn 2 is not a thing that I have ever really tried or recommended. So I'm wondering what he saw there.
Yeah, I am a little curious about that. Maybe it was just a try to hedge the bets, I guess. Like there is potential for it to get removed, but if it didn't get removed, the upside was very, very strong. However, with coin in hand, I wonder if it could have just been saved. Uh,
Yeah, I think it. I think it
yeah,
should have your maximum damage output from it is 3 off the spells because you only have 3 mana plus the attack, and then it gets removed the next turn anyways. And so
yeah,
that's where my thought process is there.
yeah. I definitely agree. That's one that, especially against a class that has spells that can deal damage, and now this buffed up hero power. It did seem like that Raj just kind of got thrown out there to get eaten away very quickly.
Yeah, it was almost like desperation play, not to put any feelings into our competitors' heads, but like, hey, if I do this, I might be able to win off rip, but I don't know if the
Yeah.
reverse was worth the risk.
I mean, the looking at the hand too, it still is kind of formed into a really awkward hand, and maybe there was the potential of just seeing the wildfire come down, that maybe there was not something else, that was gonna follow up, but Racken on the mage has been able to do something every turn and push that pressure. Whereas Odin now has applied pressure with spells and hero power, and now again completing that full quest line all the way to Tavish already. I mean, turn 5, getting that quest completed.
Oh no, Siren turn 6
There it is.
already.
Yeah, big swing turn. And that Nagaling drawing more cards as well.
That's a full hand, and we have more cheap Nagas specifically in hand. A second flame simply for the mana, so now we're +2 mana off of what we had.
Yeah, and this is now the second time in this series that we've seen Racken, use their own minions like that, right? Just send a spell or whatever into their own minions because of the value. And, yeah, they're look at how many things have been played already.
I can't even keep track of how many cards have
I
been
know
played.
it's
That
yeah,
was
this
amazing.
second Noggling now with Hot Streak. Oh, that just keeps the
Wildfire for 0, so now we're +3 mana from the +2 we already were. I'm
oh,
in awe.
yeah, this is interesting. Wow, this is a really wide board, and hunters just don't deal with wide boards. The only thing I am questioning, I think, is the second siren coming down, just because of the potential of having that. But looking at the hand, there's like no spells left. So maybe at this point it's just Reckon's way of saying, hey, I'm gonna get this out. If you kill one, if I top deck a spell or something else, I'm gonna have, plenty of ammo to keep going here. But it's got a good amount of health too, so maybe it's maybe it's like the same kind of thinking that we said earlier from Odin's side of just, "I'm gonna get it out and see if they have an answer, because if they don't, it's even more punishing."
Yeah, I do have Direct Thar as well as the Treasure Guard. No spells in hand, though, to be refreshing the hero power.
Yeah. And these players, by the way, have both been playing incredibly fast.
We were basically playing APM Priest there for a second.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff happening that last turn for Raken. Uh,
I see the trade coming up. Yeah, is there
see
even
yeah,
a
okay.
reason to hurt?
Oh, that is so much damage. Is this Oh, wow, and then just
I
a
didn't even get to
contained.
count damage. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
I mean, wow, that was a very fast series.
That is I don't think that either of those players have anything to feel bad about, but that was a very dominating performance there for the win with the 3-0.
Yeah, that was and playing so fast too, like, those games were very fast.
And so that was Racking with the 3-0 win, right?
Yeah,
First
yeah, it was.
tournament?
First tournament, period, like
Ooh. That's spicy. Oh, my favorite
Yeah.
thing there, you kept bringing it up, the use of the minions. I think a lot of players who have not played tournaments or at the highest levels, don't think often about that. Like everything you have is a resource, including your own health. Some people will protect their health to the point where they're not pushing damage to the opponent when they have 30 health or the potential to gain
Mm.
armor. And it's like, no, you can use that, Sometimes even kind of bait your opponent into going face, leaving your minions up, and then switching it up on them, like in the case with Reno. And so being able to use your own minions, even if they're only ones, like that's what they're there for. Push that damage, get that extra spell out. And so that probably an odd point for me to latch on to, but that was probably my favorite part of Reckon's gameplay.
Yeah, it's something that, like you said, like sometimes it can take a while to learn that, or players like they might feel too scared to even do that, right? Like, well, I don't want to kill my own thing. But the way that they used that was like, yeah, okay, like I'm killing a 1/1
Yeah. Oh
or
well.
whatever, like, but I'm getting to push with killing that in the hunter game 7 damage, or 6 damage to face with the
Yeah.
spell, just
Like your
by
one
killing
one's
off
not
their
worth
enemy.
it.
Yeah.
You want 7 or 1 damage. Based on hunter logic, you want 7 every time. There's no question.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, it then also prevented maybe a ping or just, made it even more awkward. So like it was damage directly to the opponent's face, or it was a benefit for them, plus like secondary benefits on top of that. And yeah, that was some extremely well played games. I think from both sides. Like maybe if I were playing from Odin's perspective, I might have done a couple things differently, but at the same time, like, some of those hands just did not seem like they were really doing enough.
Agreed. I think knowing that Mage was the last deck to be played, I probably would have queued up my Druid. That might sound weird, but I think even to just get one win, maybe gain a little confidence back, maybe throw off your opponent, maybe even just to play all three of your decks to say you played right, you brought them all, might as well play them all. But Nourish, you had Guff, Scale of Onyxia, great way to try and clear those large Naga boards. Even Raid Boss Onyxia, another great way to try to clear those large boards. You're running double spammy Arcanist, knowing that there's small Nagas all the way up to 4/5s, and you can't guarantee the win, but I think that would have been a nice cue to see the Druid queue into the Mage there.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting with Conquest, I think especially where it's like, you're gonna have to get a win with all 3, so do you try to then bring the deck that's gonna do the best for their 3rd deck? Or do you kinda just say, "Well, I'm gonna have to get a win with these anyways," and just bring something and hope it works?
Yeah, because I've done that before. Played a deck swapped and then swapped back instead of using my third deck. And the reason that I did that in that specific tournament, I did also lose, by the way, is because that was the deck that I felt most comfortable with. I had played the most with it on ladder.
Mm,
I knew the ins and outs, and I knew a lot of the matchups. And so in that match as well for myself, I think I would have been better off playing my third deck. But I went for comfortability. I was already down 2-0. And so that could have been a little bit of part of it. And like that's a big part of playing any competitive game. Like sometimes you have to play what you're
mhm.
comfortable with because that's what you're best at, and only you know that.
Yeah. Definitely. But, either way, I think both of these players tried their best with what they had, but I think for this case, the big storyline is Rack in there with the first tournament, incredible play, an aggressive lineup, and just like showed no mercy, right? Like they just came in like a pro, right? They're like, this is my first tournament, whatever. There's also an in-client bug right now where in between each game it kicks the players back to the main screen. Nah, no issue there. They went for it and I love it.
Sometimes you come to play.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just show up, and all of you shows up, and all of your skill and talent shows up. I'll tell you what, I don't know if Rackin's gonna watch this, but I'm gonna make Paladin. I'm gonna make the Paladin deck, and I'm gonna play the Paladin deck on ladder because I love how it looked, and I love how Rackin played the deck, and I think it'll be super fun to play. So you won a tournament, your first tournament, got some money out of it, it inspired a caster to play a deck on ladder. All in all, that's so phenomenal. So glad that you're playing Hearthstone.
Yes, absolutely. It was incredible to watch. So, thank you to all of our players who played in the tournament. And again, these are like monthly tournaments. So keep an eye out for what is coming next. Going to be changing up, trying out some different formats, different structures, all of that. So stay tuned, and thank you all so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining me today, Siimba, as well. You killed it. And we'll have all of the info in the description below where you can find more from Siimba and check out all of his content as well to keep up with what he's doing.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out and watching this. Thanks for having me cast with you. This was awesome. I'm really glad this was the series that I got to do. This was so much fun.
Yes, it was. Well, thank you so much. Thank you again to everyone for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.